Hello, everybody. It's nice to be here. I'm an academic from the University of Oxford, so I'm used to standing in front of a room full of undergraduates and telling them about human genetics. And I thought we could do that today, yeah? We'll just get into the intricacies of the human genome. No, we won't do that today. I'm not used to all this tech. This is very much fancier than a lecture theatre at Oxford is. Today I'm going to tell you a story of how my team contributed to the development, the testing, and the scale-up and roll-out of the Oxford-AstraZeneca vaccine, which obviously was a really big deal for us in 2020. It consumed most of my year. So as well as being an associate professor in Chromosome Dynamics at the university, I also head this team, which is the clinical biomanufacturing facility. It's perhaps an unusual thing for a university to have, but we are a GMP medicines manufacturing suite embedded in the university, where we manufacture medicines which have been created by academics of the university. So as you can imagine, there's lots of great innovative ideas that come out from the university for new healthcare products, whether that's in gene therapy, in therapeutics, in diagnostics, or in particularly the thing I'm interested in, vaccinology. But of course, you can do as many experiments as you like in your research lab, but at some point, you're going to have to get proof of principle that that medicine is likely to be effective in a human. And to do that, somebody needs to make that medicine. And medicines manufacturing, as some of you probably know, is an extremely highly regulated business. And that is true whether that's paracetamol you're buying in the chemist, or whether that's the first medicine that's ever going to get put into a person in a clinical trial. So we operate under the regulatory environment known as good manufacturing practice, and all of the regulations that apply to GMP in the industrial scale also apply to us. It's challenging. Our job is to create new innovative processes that enable innovative medicines to be manufactured. And we focus particularly on biologics manufacturing. So medicines that need to be made by synthesis inside living cells as opposed to by chemical synthesis. For us, this of course means good manufacturing practice stands for great mountains of paperwork, GMP. But that of course is critical. Our product is eventually going to go, for the first time, into the arm of a volunteer. So we take safety extremely seriously. Internal QA teams and QC teams making sure we're compliant with all the regulations, because the safety of our participants is always going to be our utmost priority. So this was the schedule that we managed to stick to for the 2020 pandemic vaccine development program. And as you can see, this is condensing what used to take us 8 years into about 8 months. That's extremely challenging to do. And one of the ways, as you can see, we do this is we just overlap everything. So whereas when money is an issue, which it always is in academic research, you have to do one phase, produce the results, demonstrate to your funder that the results are working, go back, write another proposal, get funding for the next bit. There's a lot of waiting around in those 8 years. What you can actually do, if you can get funding up front for everything, is start planning for the end right at the beginning, and that saves you an awful lot of time. So 6 of us at the University of Oxford came together, split up the work. I'm going to do the manufacturing, Tess is going to do the immunology, Sandy's going to do the scale-up. And we sat down in a room and said, right, if we start all of this now, we think we can get a vaccine ready by the end of the year. And everyone told us that we were foolish, but of course we managed it. And I think that this strategy of delegation, everybody get one task to do and just get on with it, was really effective in that.
It was very challenging because we're nerdy scientists and we mostly work in the lab on our little nerdy projects that nobody cares about, and we just get on with that. And nobody's interested. And then suddenly everybody was interested, and at some point I was on a radio show in the UK and they told me that it was the only story in the world. I'm like, I don't really know what to do with that. So that's a challenge, because normally I would be standing up giving a presentation like this and I would have a lot of data to show, and I would be showing you, standard deviations and confidence intervals. And you can't do that when you're trying to talk to the public about a public health emergency. You have to tell stories. And part of the difficulty was that people who were perhaps vaccine hesitant or not being encouraging of the uptake of vaccines early on because they were new and perhaps frightening, they told good stories. They were lies, but they were good stories. And you can't counter a good story with facts. It doesn't work. So we had to learn to relax a bit and start to say, no, if you listen to who we are as well as the data that we're telling you, perhaps that helps. And I think it did help. I think humans, scientists, engineers can't just be the white coat people with the crazy hair and the evil lair dungeon. We have to be real people with kids and families doing our day jobs, setting out to help the world. Because if you get the public to believe that that's where you start, the data then comes across much better than otherwise.